Hey,
Odie,
yeah.
engineering a business mindset.
So that's
That's our discussion.
that's our discussion for this episode. Excellent. Sounds cool. So, what exactly do you mean by that?
You take the stages of someone that works in technology, and they tend to care about different things at different stages of their software engineering life cycle
Okay.
or their career life cycle. And so maybe at the very beginning stage, they're consuming a lot of books or literature on the foundational rules for building something, and then they learn of maybe a paradigm shift of a way to do it more effectively, right? So I think about learning how to program, maybe with Java or C sharp, and then of course that was the syntax, right, of just hello world, etc. But then later, I learned about design patterns, right? And I'm like, oh wow, this changes everything. Right? Everything's a design pattern right now. Visitor pattern, flyweights, adapter pattern, singleton. I'm making everything a pattern, right? And then you start maturing. You learn other paradigms, and you say design patterns. Those are for mainstream. I'm an elitist, right? I'm in a different percentile. Like I don't design patterns are for people that write code wrong, right? And so, anyways, you go through this evolution of learning how to be an
Yeah.
implementer. That's not the right word.
Yeah. Yeah. Implementer, individual
Okay,
contributor.
whatever.
Yeah. Whatever.
So you go through the motions of evolving what it means to be an implementer, but then as you maybe grow older and maybe inherit more responsibility or discover more of your potential, you start thinking less about implementation details and tactics that a developer would be consumed with. And you start focusing more on understanding at a higher level what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to contribute, what you're trying to leave your mark on.
Okay.
Hence, solutions and making the world quote unquote a better place for somebody, right? And it's no longer tactical. It's no longer about syntax, JavaScript, whatever framework of the day. And it's more about here are my operating expenses. Here's the revenue that I need to get this type of profit that I'm looking for. And you completely start focusing on business objectives. And I don't really give a damn anymore as much about JavaScript or singletons or even security, depending on the stage of what I'm trying to accomplish. And well, what's the topic of this YouTube session?
Engineering,
Engineering a business mindset.
a business mindset.
Yeah. So I'll
Yeah.
pause right now. I'll take a breath and I'll let you go at it.
I think I think you're right. And I think it's very difficult for people who are immersed in a particular area of in a particular area to want to be more balanced, right? There is a temptation once you become a software engineer to keep going down that rabbit hole. And what tends to happen in organizations is that as you go higher and higher in your field, right, your concerns in a business start to change, right? Your priorities are now start to drift from the priorities of the business. And sometimes the priorities of the business, actually is actually going to get in the way of the priorities of the engineer, right? And that's where most of the conflict between management and like engineering tends to happen. Is that, from management's perspective, is we have to ship this thing in August, right? Come what may, if the as long as the engine is as long as the engine of the car is running correctly and the tires are working and you can drive from point A to point B, we should go ahead and ship it. Whereas for the concerns of engineering might be, oh, we need to make sure that the CPU, I think there's a name they call it, the ECS or whatever, in the vehicle is of this particular standard, or we need to make sure that the seat belts are working correctly. We need to make sure, so many things that are legitimately important, but at the same time aren't really aren't really critical for sales, which is what the business people are all about, right? And I think that conflict right there, it's something that I don't think is ever going to go away, right? There are so many companies that are going through those battles, that have gone through those battles, and will keep going through those battles. So yeah, I think that's my perspective on it.
Yeah. Where you say sales, I say experiments. Like, I don't know. I think after consuming a number of books and instructional videos, I kind of view my professional practice as experiment after experiment after experiment, and trying to understand what I thought versus what reality has handed to me. And I feel like it's better than what I've been doing. What I've been doing is just kind of like borderline big up front. You know, this is where I'm going without considering if it's right or not. And I mean, I know waterfall isn't a cool thing, but that's how I've approached problems. Is I'll just do a big upfront design of how I think things should be. Damn the people on the other end are going to be consuming it or using it. And I think when you have more on the line, when you have more money, more time, and it could be a factor of life altering events like not being able to pay your taxes and the IRS are going to kick down your door,
Yeah.
like start thinking differently, right? Start thinking like, I don't want to spend the next 6 months building something that really hasn't been tested at all. I understand that there's that, I'm confident, I'm arrogant, but I can't afford to write code for such a long time just to benefit my ego if at the end I have massive losses. Right. So I think engineering a business mindset, because we obtain experience, we get more and more money, we make more and more investments that we have to maintain. I think it kind of encourages or constrains us to think a different way now. So I don't know. That's just a brain dump.
Yeah. When you say think in a different way, what do you mean exactly? Like,
When you think in a different way, as in, like, for example, I can't. Let me try to clear my thoughts for a second. So when I started this speech delivery app, I already had my vision of what I was going to build out, and I said, of course, it's going to serve a market that's not really being served. And here is my plan of everything I'm going to build, and everything must be delivered that way. and that was like 4 years ago. I'm still working on it right now,
Mm,
and I have way more education, and I'm realizing that maybe it would have been wiser for me to, instead of writing all this F sharp code, writing all this Xamarin code, learning all this Azure, maybe it would have just been helpful for me to do what I'm currently doing now, pay $500 to get a website put up
mm,
that can accommodate 70% of what the mobile app does.
mm.
And that website was completed in about 3 weeks versus what I still haven't completed in 4 years.
I totally get your point. Yeah. 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 Because there's the temptation as a software engineer, right? To be so hell bent on the specifics of the technology and what you're going to use and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. I increased my weight. Like I I make way more money because I went through the process of building pretty much a Uber Eats application. Me, little me, right? Um, says someone 6'7", 240 pounds. But so what normally takes probably 50 or 100 engineers, who knows, Postmates, Grubhub, Uber Eats, like I did it and I learned a lot of valuable lessons.
Mm,
And it increased my hourly rate. It has granted me a lifestyle. I earned a new lifestyle because based on those last 4 years.
mm,
So it's not throwaway, but would I be a lot further if I knew then what I know now?
mm. Well, I would push back on that idea a little bit, right? And the reason I'll push back at that idea is that I think those 4 years had their value, right? They have their value, like you mentioned. It has improved you and so on and so forth. But at the same time, some things are not clear unless you go through them. So, for example, if someone had told you 4 years ago, just hire someone, just do it this way, there will be the temptation to push back, and truly, you wouldn't even have that perspective that you have now, right? So, I think it's better to take action. So, for example, you could compare and contrast with me. For example, I remember when you started the project 4 years ago, and you were really pushing for it, and you started writing code and so on and so forth. Versus me, who had scrapped like 3 or 4 ideas in that same period of time, right? You and I are still sitting at the exact same position, quote unquote, but you are far ahead in the sense that you have gone through more. You have actually achieved more. Like you've made a lot of progress, both mentally and from your business perspective and so on and so forth, versus having to have the best strategy up front. Does that make sense?
I still struggle with the latter part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think as software engineers, I think it's very, very important to have that business mindset because, in fact, like I know I've told this story before, but I'll go ahead and repeat it. Was when I first joined cyberspace. This was in 2013 or something, right? So for the first 3 or 4 years, I was always upset with quote unquote management, right? I was always upset. Oh, why aren't we doing it this way? Or why are we rushing this project? Why can't we settle down and really do this project very well? Why can't we ship this way or that way? And so on and so forth. Oh, this code base is messed up. We need to rewrite the whole thing. That was me pretty much. And I couldn't fathom in my head why quote unquote management, right? The technical people who ended up in management why they made certain decisions, because I was like, you should know better. You of all people, at least you've written code before, so you of all people should know that, writing unit tests is super critical, and we shouldn't ship any product without complete unit test coverage, or we can't ship anything without security audits and stuff like that. But I quickly learned by the time I, became a manager at the same company, and I quickly learned that it doesn't matter. None of all this matters, right? Let's be 100% honest. People don't care that Amazon is written in Java or C++ or whatever the case may be, right? The user doesn't care. The customer doesn't care, right? You either deliver and get value for your delivery, or you don't deliver and you lose all value altogether, right? So there is no, from a business perspective, right, there is no sympathy points from the customer. Oh, you've been working on this project for 10 years, and even though you weren't able to meet my needs, you know what, still take my money, take maybe part of my money or something like that. It's nothing like that. It's either your product comes out and satisfies a need and you get paid for it, or you don't. And there's no in between there. And that understanding is where the business mindset starts from, right? You have to think from the perspective of the customer, right? That would be equivalent to a chef cooking, right? He has to think of the perspective of the person who is going to eat the food, right? And you see this thing, to be fair, it's not just software engineers it happens to. I think it happens to all industries, right? So take the fashion industry, for example. The kind of things that people who are in the fashion industry are, enamored by, are things that the average person doesn't care about, right? So like, you can see some of the clothes they wear, some of the clothes that they are like super stoked about are not practical for the average person, and those clothes don't mean anything to us. So if you're someone who wants to build a mass market brand, right, where you're selling your clothes to a lot of people, you can't go and start having all those crazy funky designs, right? That will not sell, right? Instead, you have to think of, okay, can I get to some kind of middle ground where I still get some of the best of, I'm still able to incorporate some of the best of, the fashion industry, but still make it kind of accessible to regular people. And I think you could take the Kanye Yeezys, for example, right? The design of it is an example, or Crocs is another good example of something that is high-end fashion, or the ideas, the concepts came from high-end fashion, but was reduced to a point where it was comfortable and it got like mainstream appeal and stuff like that. So I know I've been I've gone on this tirade for a while. So what are your thoughts on what I just said?
My thoughts are, I think this concludes our discussion of building a engineering mindset. And yeah, this one, keep it tight, short, and I think we covered the basis.
Yeah, but if you, what would be your takeaway? Like, say I am watching this video, I'm somebody who is so nerdy into tech, but I want to get a business mindset, right? We've talked about like what causes it and so on and so forth. What would be your solution to that situation?
I would say try to start some passive income and then decide if all the ceremony that you believe is absolutely necessary is still relevant when you're investing your own time and money in an effort to get passive income, aka return on investment. And depending on how much money you invest, I think is proportional to how much you probably don't care about the nitty gritty details. And everything is about, I think, having and maintaining the tightest feedback loop that you can have so that you can make decisions more frequently.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. So yeah, do you have any call outs?
We're at early 20s subscribers. If you felt this discussion and we try to consolidate our thoughts out of respect for the 20 observers or subscribers,
Yeah.
um, if this is helping you, it's likely helping somebody else marinate on their current path and maybe what are some other options. And so share, like, comment, and encourage folks to subscribe. That's it.
Yeah. So, yeah, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.